One of the most fascinating things about myself is how all of the games that I hated as a child, I wound up loving as I got older, and vice versa applied to those games that I loved as a child, to a certain extent. Well, Eye of the Beholder is a game that I used to hate with a passion, and yet today it stands as one of my favorite video games of all time. Quite a feat considering how many games I've played in my years as a gamer, and how many more I will play as I go through this life. But you're not here to listen to me yak about my past. You came here because you want to know if Eye of the Beholder is worth your time and money, and I certainly think it is. So let's begin. Eye of the Beholder sees the player's party tasked by the Lords of Waterdeep to investigate some bad mojo going on beneath the city, and they hire you to investigate it, and to put a stop to it if you are able. Going down into the city sewers, the party takes not more than 6 steps inside, only for the gate to slam shut and a rock slide to trap them in the sewers, and now the party's only way out is down. One of the things about Eye of the Beholder that's cause for concern is that the story isn't really there. Don't get me wrong, I play RPGs to watch the numbers get ever higher whenever the opportunity presents itself, but come on man, this is Dungeons & Dragons, a game system that's all about telling stories. Whatever, it isn't all that bad for when it came out, it's just that it's barely there. Go into this dungeon and put a stop to whatever evil is down there is pretty much what Eye of the Beholder story boils down to at its most basic. But it does get a little more complicated when you learn that an army of drow are allied with the evil the Lords of Waterdeep want destroyed because he intends to use said drow to conquer Waterdeep and become its ruler. Basically, the big bad foozle wants to take over a place because the evils. Gotcha. While the story may not be quite up to the usual Dungeons & Dragons flair, the gameplay has certainly got it going on. I love this system. If you've ever played, say, Dungeon Master before, then this screen should look somewhat familiar. The game takes place in a completely first-person perspective, and your party members' portraits are off to the right side of the screen, showing what they've got equipped in their hands. The characters at the top of the list are the ones who dish out the punishment and take it in turn, keeping the back 4 characters safe from harm, or as safe as they can make it against certain enemies. The characters further back can't attack with melee-based weapons like swords, axes, and spears, but they can use bows and arrows and slings and rocks and darts just fine. If you should have any spellcasters in your back row, they'll be best off in the middle or towards the back as well. For your spellcasters to cast spells, they first must memorize the spells if they are a mage, or pray for their spells if they are a cleric. At every level, depending on the relevant stat, your spellcasters may memorize and or pray for a certain number of spells, and after they've done that, they must rest for at least 8 hours before they can cast the spells you've had them prepare. Once you've done all that, have a mage equip a spellbook in his hand and a cleric equip a holy symbol in his hand, right-click on him and cast away. Just remember that you can only cast as many spells as you've prepared beforehand, and once you've exhausted your uses of spells, you must rest again to regain your spell uses. If you've ever played, say, Dark Souls and you've played as a sorcerer, you'll understand what I mean. But later on, rather than use offensive-based magic, you'd be better off casting defensive, buffing, and healing magic instead, because most of the late-game enemies seem to be resistant to offensive magic. Kinda sucky, admittedly, because that removes a lot of your mage's use, but what can you do? Oh yeah! Something else that I feel I should mention is the fact that everything you come across in-game is something that you will explore and find, or fight for and earn. There are no shops, no shopkeepers, and no money. Is that a good thing or a bad thing, I hear you ask? I honestly can't answer that question, and I leave that one up for you to decide. Eye of the Beholder can be played with just a mouse, just a keyboard, or even a mouse and keyboard combo. Honestly, I would recommend the mouse-keyboard combo. It makes playing the game and navigating through the maze that much faster and easier. You won't constantly have to shift your mouse from the movement keys over to your character's weapons and spellcasting items just to fight one or two enemies, and then move the mouse back over to the arrow keys to move around. You can see it in the gameplay, so you tell me, would you rather play with just a mouse or just a keyboard, or do you want to do it my way and make it as easy as possible on yourself? Oh shoot! I just remembered. As this is a Dungeons & Dragons game from way back when, before you can play the game, you must create your characters, and you have to create 4 of them. Going by 2nd edition Dungeons & Dragons rules, or advanced Dungeons & Dragons rules, you create your characters choosing their race, sex, class, alignment, portrait, stats, and name. I feel like this needs to be said, but apart from determining whether a paladin or characters of evil alignment can be in your party, I literally see alignment as completely pointless in this game. Seriously, even if you do choose to play with evil characters or good characters or neutral characters, nothing changes at all as far as I can tell. So why does alignment need to be in this game at all when it literally does nothing? I mean, in Eye of the Beholder 3, alignment actually does something outside of determining if a paladin or evil characters can be in the party, but I'll cover that when I get to Eye of the Beholder 3. Oh, eventually you can also get up to 2 NPCs to also tag along with your merry band, meaning that in true Dungeons & Dragons fashion, you can have a maximum of 6 party members in your party, but you must have at least 4 party members in your party. Anyways, you create your party, you go through the dungeon, you'll fight loads of monsters, including a crap ton of them from Dungeons & Dragons, such as kobolds, drow, driders, mind flayers, even a beholder. Get it? Eye of the Beholder? Anyway, while you're traversing through the dungeon, you have some puzzles to solve. You have a few NPC interactions that you'll have to make decisions for. You'll even go through illusionary walls just to find a way out of the dungeon. But while you're traveling through the dungeon, do be forewarned that, at least in the PC version, there is no music whatsoever, outside of the intro cutscene, the ending cutscene, and character creation. Apart from that, the game is graveyard silent. The Super Nintendo version and the Sega CD version both have music, as does the PC 98 version, but none of those versions are being sold on Steam, unfortunately. But how tight it would be if they were, man. The graphics in this game are just so darn gorgeous. Everything looks so crisp and clean, and you can tell what everything is, except for maybe some of the character portraits. But still, man, everything looks so good. The sound effects are also pretty good. There may not be any music, but the sound effects are good. Anyways, after making it through all of the monsters, the traps, and the tricks, you eventually confront the Beholder, who is behind all of the problems that has caused the Lords of Waterdeep so much anxiety. Xanathar the Beholder. You fight him, or you can push him into a spike trap, or whatever you choose to do, you defeat Xanathar. So your reward is 1.5 blue boxes of text stating that after defeating Xanathar, you get teleported out of the dungeon and into Pirgiron Paladinson's throne room, where you reveal that you have managed to defeat Xanathar, and thus you are branded the Heroes of Waterdeep, for one day at least. And then the Lords of Waterdeep tell you to GTFO, and they do it so hard that it actually boots you back to the DOS prompt. Overall, Eye of the Beholder is a game that I often find myself coming back to at least once a year because I really do love it that much. It's really simple, it's easy to understand, you can just pick it up and play it, and you don't have to worry about forgetting what the story is about because your goal is always going to be the same. Defeat Xanathar, the head honcho of the dungeon that you're trapped in, and your goal never ever shifts from that. The story isn't all that good, admittedly, but there's just enough there to get you to have an end goal in mind. You can buy the entire Eye of the Beholder trilogy from both Steam and GOG.com, And I say buy both of them, if only to just show the trilogy some love. But I must give a slight edge to the Steam version, because it comes bundled with the auto map program, the All-Seeing Eye. It makes the game much easier to map out. Anyways, if this game looks like something you'd be interested in, I'll leave a link to it in the description below. And again, please check these games out. They're great. They hold up well even today. Although they don't have a built-in auto map, you now have an auto map off to the side. I'm not too fond of the game's lack of music, though. They have a tunes on/off option in the options menu, so I wonder if that's something that they were originally going to have in-game was music? I guess that's a secret best kept between Frank Klepacki and God, because now the world will never know. Anyways, thank you all so much for watching. I will see you in the next review, whatever that game may be. And until next time, bye-bye for now.